Have you ever noticed? In a room full of noise, the loudest voice often fades into the background, but the one who speaks rarely, that's the voice people stop and listen to. We live in a world obsessed with speaking. Social media wants us to react fast. Meetings reward those who talk most. And silence? Silence is often mistaken for weakness, or worse, irrelevance. But what if silence wasn't empty? What if silence was power? The ancient Stoics believed it was. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, once said, "It's better to trip with your feet than with your tongue." Because words, once spoken, can't be taken back. They can wound, destroy trust, or reveal more about us than we intend. But silence? Silence allows space for thought, for wisdom, for strength. When we choose not to speak in haste, when we pause, not out of fear but out of self-mastery, we reclaim a part of ourselves that today's world keeps trying to take away. This isn't about withdrawing or being passive. It's about reclaiming intention, choosing not to react just because we can, choosing peace when chaos is easier, choosing stillness when the world screams for noise. So let me ask you, when was the last time your silence said more than your words ever could? In this video, we'll explore 9 powerful moments in life where silence isn't just the best response, it's the wisest. And along the way, you'll learn how Stoic wisdom can help you face conflict, emotion, and even loss with calm and quiet strength. Stay with me, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been criticized for something you didn't do? Or judged unfairly by someone who didn't even know the full story? It stings, doesn't it? But the Stoics, ancient masters of inner strength, saw these moments not as insults, but as invitations. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, once said, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." In other words, it's not the criticism that hurts us. It's what we believe about that criticism. We internalize it. We give it power. But what if, instead, we chose to stay still? Imagine someone tears down your work in front of a room. Instead of defending yourself or firing back, you pause, breathe, and listen. You extract the truth, if there is any, and discard the rest. You don't let someone's opinion shape your identity. You let your integrity speak louder than your defense. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Epictetus, another Stoic voice, said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." When someone comes at you with harsh words, your silence can be more eloquent than any speech. Not because you don't care, but because you care too much about who you're becoming to get pulled into a battle of egos. So here's the challenge. Next time someone criticizes you unfairly, ask yourself, is this about me or about them? And then choose the higher road. Let your work, your consistency, your calm presence speak for itself. Because when you choose not to react in haste, you don't just protect your peace, you build a reputation rooted in strength, not reactivity. And in a noisy world, that kind of silence is unforgettable. We've all been there. You're at a meeting, a dinner, or a gathering, and someone starts bragging. Their voice gets louder with each story. More zeros in the salary, more titles in the resume, more luxury in the lifestyle. And part of you, just for a moment, wants to jump in, to prove you're just as successful, maybe even more. But what if you didn't? What if, instead of matching their noise, you chose quiet confidence? The Stoics taught us that true worth is never shouted. It's lived. A wise person doesn't need to list their wins. They let their consistency, their presence, their integrity speak louder than any resume ever could. Silence, in moments of arrogance, isn't weakness. It's restraint. It says, I don't need to compete. I know who I am. Because here's the truth. When someone is bragging, it's often not about impressing you. It's about reassuring themselves. And when you stay calm, when you smile and nod, when you don't rush to match them, you show a level of self-assurance that can't be faked. Have you ever met someone like that? Someone who barely talks about their accomplishments, but when they do, every word lands with weight? That's the power of practiced humility. So next time you're surrounded by noise, remember, you don't have to raise your voice to raise your value. You don't need to compete in conversations that don't align with who you're becoming. Because your silence, when grounded in self-awareness, isn't just quiet, it's commanding. And in a world addicted to proving, those who don't stand out the most. Let's be honest. Anger happens. Someone cuts you off. A coworker drops the ball. A friend says something thoughtless. And suddenly, your chest tightens. Your voice rises. Your mind races with comebacks you know you'll regret. But here's the truth. Anger isn't weakness until it controls you. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The consequences of anger are far more serious than the causes." And haven't we all lived that truth? A sharp comment, a slammed door, a decision made in the heat of the moment that lingers far longer than the thing that triggered it. But the Stoics offer us a better path. They don't tell us to suppress our emotions. They teach us to observe them, to pause, to breathe, to choose our next move with clarity, not heat. So next time you feel anger rising, try this. Don't speak. Yet. Breathe in. Feel the emotion. Then ask yourself, what's really going on here? Am I reacting or responding? Anger, when left unchecked, burns bridges. But when understood, it can light the way to self-awareness, change, even courage. Maybe someone disappointed you. Can you speak truth with grace instead of blame? Maybe a situation feels unfair. Can you turn that frustration into focus? Silence, in moments of anger, isn't avoidance. It's strength. It's space. It's the difference between adding fuel to the fire or letting it burn out harmlessly. So I'll leave you with this. The next time you feel anger tighten in your chest, don't rush to speak. Don't rush to act. Let your silence be the first act of control. Because from that stillness, you can choose a better way forward. What do you do when people talk behind your back? When whispers become stories, and stories become rumors about things you never said, never did? The temptation, of course, is to defend yourself, to explain, to confront, to make the truth louder than the lie. But sometimes, silence is stronger than any explanation. The Stoics taught us that you don't have to chase every rumor. You don't need to correct every misunderstanding, because you are not responsible for the stories others invent, only for how you live. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that. You can't stop people from talking, but you can decide whether their words change who you are or how you show up in the world. The next time someone spreads something false about you, ask yourself, does explaining this really bring peace or just more noise? Would it be wiser to simply let time and truth do the talking? Epictetus reminded us, if someone speaks ill of you, live in a way that no one will believe it. That's Stoic silence, not passive, but powerful. When your actions are consistent, your values unshaken, your integrity visible, no rumor stands a chance in the long run. Let your calm become your defense. Let your work speak louder than their words. Let your reputation be built not by argument, but by example. Because eventually the noise fades, but your character echoes long after the story ends. Loss. It's something none of us can escape. A loved one, a relationship, a job, a part of ourselves we thought would last forever. And then, it's gone. And in that silence that follows, we often find ourselves searching for meaning, comfort, or just the strength to breathe again. But what if that silence The very emptiness we fear isn't the enemy, but the invitation. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "The pain I feel now is the happiness I had before. That's the deal." And in those few words, he captured something so deeply human. Our grief is a reflection of the love we were lucky enough to experience. The Stoics understood this well. Seneca, the Roman philosopher, put it this way: "The day we fear as our last is but the birthday of eternity." To the Stoics, loss wasn't the end. It was a transformation, a moment not to run from, but to sit with, to listen, to grow. What if, instead of trying to fill the silence, you embraced it? What if you allowed yourself to feel every emotion, without judgment, without rushing, and trusted that healing doesn't happen through noise, but through stillness? Because that quiet space, that ache in your chest, it's where reflection begins. It's where we remember what mattered most, and who we want to become next. Loss is not just the closing of a chapter, it's the shaping of your next one. So take your time. Let the silence hold you. Write, walk, breathe. Do nothing, if that's what your heart needs. This isn't about moving on. It's about moving through, with grace, with strength, and with the understanding that healing is not loud. It's deeply, beautifully quiet. Sometimes the hardest conversations aren't with angry people, but with the uninformed. You know the type. They speak with certainty, but little depth. They dismiss facts, reject nuance, and defend their ignorance as truth. And when you encounter that kind of energy, what do? Do you correct them, debate them, try to prove them wrong? Or do you simply choose not to engage? Centuries ago, Galileo, the man who challenged an entire worldview, faced this very dilemma. He stood by the truth even when it meant arrest, exile, and rejection. But what made him remarkable wasn't just his science, it was his restraint. He didn't fight every argument. He didn't scream for validation. He stood in quiet defiance, knowing that truth doesn't need to shout. It simply is. The Stoics taught us this too. You have power over your mind, not over outside events, Marcus Aurelius wrote, which includes the minds of others. You can't force someone to understand what they're not ready to see. You can't wake someone who's comfortable sleeping in their own beliefs, but you can control how you show up. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do isn't to correct ignorance, it's to rise above it, to remain respectful, to choose your battles, to say, without saying, I don't need to win this argument, I just need to keep my peace. Think about it. How much energy have you spent trying to convince someone who wasn't even listening? And what might shift if instead you stayed still and let their noise echo into its own silence? Not every truth needs defending, and not every voice deserves a reply. So the next time ignorance shows up, pause, breathe, and let your calm become the most intelligent answer in the room. Rumors. They spread like wildfire, fast, destructive, and often impossible to trace. And when they're about you, it's tempting to run after every flame, to explain, defend, prove yourself. But the truth is, you don't have to. In fact, one of the most powerful ways to face false stories is with silence and consistency. Because people may talk, but actions always speak louder. And when your behavior remains steady, rooted in integrity, no rumor can shake what's real. The Stoics believed this deeply. They knew that trying to correct every whisper only gives it more life, more attention, more power. So instead of chasing words, they chose to embody truth. Think about it. If someone spread a false story about you, what would say more? A frantic denial? Or the way you continue to show up, kind, calm, and focused on your path? As Marcus Aurelius put it, the best revenge is to be unlike him who did the injury. In other words, don't match the noise, rise above it, Keep showing up with grace. Stay consistent. Let your values shine through every word you choose not to say. Over time, the story fades, the lie crumbles, and what remains is the quiet power of someone who didn't need to shout to be heard. So the next time you hear your name in a rumor, ask yourself, is this worth my peace, or can I let the truth do its work while I keep living mine? Because a person grounded in truth doesn't need to prove it, they just need to live it every single day. Injustice. Few things in life cut deeper. Being mistreated, misunderstood, watching unfairness unfold, not just around you, but against you. And in those moments, it's only natural to want to fight back, to shout, to retaliate. But what if there's a different way, a deeper way? Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, not because he did something wrong, but because he stood for something right. And when he was finally freed, he didn't return with fists clenched in rage. He returned with open hands, with forgiveness, with vision. He didn't fight injustice by becoming like those who caused it. He chose wisdom over revenge, peace over pride, a calm that didn't mean surrender, but strategy. This is the Stoic way. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who caused the harm, to face injustice with dignity, to respond not out of emotion but principle, to choose silence not as weakness but as preparation for meaningful, lasting change. Because real power doesn't come from shouting louder, it comes from standing firmer." Think about it. What would happen if, the next time you were treated unfairly, you didn't react in anger, but in clarity? What message would that send? What shift might that create, not just in others, but in you? Responding with calm in the face of injustice doesn't mean approval. It means you're choosing to lead, not follow the chaos. So the next time the world feels unfair, pause. Remember who you are, and answer not with rage, but with the kind of silence that reshapes history. It's easy to stay calm until someone insults you. That one comment, sarcastic, cutting, maybe even meant to hurt, it hits hard. And the first instinct? Strike back. Prove your strength. Defend your dignity. But what if the truest form of strength is not reacting at all? The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." In other words, they might throw the fire, but you decide whether it burns. Think about that. Every time you respond to an insult with anger, you've handed over your power, your peace, to someone else's opinion. But when you choose silence instead, you reclaim all of it. Look at Gandhi, a man insulted, mocked, even attacked, and yet he never raised his voice in retaliation. Why? Because his mission, his inner peace, was worth more than any reaction. His silence wasn't weakness. It was wisdom. It was power, disguised as stillness. And it inspired millions. So let me ask you, what if the next time someone tried to pull you into conflict you didn't follow? What if you responded with calm, with grace, with nothing at all? You'd stand taller, not in the eyes of the one who insulted you, but in your own. Because true composure isn't just about keeping cool. It's about showing others and reminding yourself that your peace is not up for grabs. So the next time the words sting, remember, you're not here to win petty battles. You're here to rise above them. Let your silence speak volumes. Let your restraint lead the room. And let your calm be the answer they never expected, but always remembered.